Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time here. My name is Sandra, and on this channel we talk about all things inner work, healing fearful avoidant attachments, and healing out of survival mode. And for today's video, I want to talk about why you feel so self-conscious, because I really struggled with this. And there's a part of me that still struggles with feeling self-conscious. And I will say that it used to be so much worse, where I just always said no to doing things outside. When people would invite me places, I would say no. Now I kind of just base it off of my energy and where I'm at in my cycle. But in the past, I was so self-conscious that it exhausted me so much that I didn't even allow myself to be around other people because I felt so drained afterwards. So if this is how you felt, you're going to want to stick around for the rest of this video. So I realized that being so self-conscious was actually a part of the hypervigilance and being in survival mode, and it's a part of this attachment style. So feeling like you are going to hurt other people is one of the fearful avoidant core wounds. And feeling like you are broken or you're not enough or you're not worthy are also all parts of the fearful avoidant core wounds. And because you feel like you're not enough, because you feel like you're not worthy, because you feel like you are broken and that you're going to hurt people, you distance yourself from people, first of all, for that reason, so that you don't hurt people. Because if you're not around other people, then you can't hurt them. And then there's also the other part of, well, am I even worthy enough to be around other people? Like, have I done enough? Am I enough? Am I worthy enough to be around other people? So I'm like approaching this from all the angles, but it's like a combination of things that put you in this place where you feel so self-conscious to be around other people. And the other part that I just mentioned also was being in survival mode and being so hypervigilant, because in your childhood you had to read your caregiver's facial cues, because they were so unpredictable. You didn't know when they were going to be in a good mood, when they were going to be in a bad mood. So you had to be on hyper alert, you had to be hypervigilant, and you had to like read their facial cues, listen to their tone, look at their body language and see like, well, okay, is this a good time to approach? Is this a good time to interact with them? And you were constantly just in this hyper vigilant mode, and you would base your behavior and how you showed up based on how they were showing up, based on their mood, based on what they needed you to show up in, so that you didn't trigger them, so that they didn't hurt you, so that they didn't talk down to you. Whatever it was, you had to do this to survive, and you are still doing this in your daily life now because you did it for so long. It became wired into your nervous system to be hypervigilant, to look out at people's facial cues, to read their verbal tone, to look at their body language, and look at all these things to make sure that you are safe, to ensure your safety. And that can feel so exhausting and can cause you to feel so self-conscious, because when you're in a room with someone and you're constantly reading their facial cues so that you can adjust, and you're constantly asking yourself, well, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Oh my God, they just frowned. Oh my God, they just did this, like their tone just shifted. And then it like causes you to double think back on what you said. And then you become self-conscious. And then you're like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. And then when you are putting all of these shoulds all over yourself, and you are constantly overthinking what to say, what to do, and you're planning everything in your head, you can't really be present in the conversation. And it becomes this exhausting loop of reading the other person, trying to respond and plan what you're going to say. And you're never actually responding to reality. You're never actually responding to the person in front of you in the present moment, because you're constantly in your head worried about what you're going to say next. All right, so we had a little change of scenery. I had to move from the other room, but what I was saying was, let me just fix the angle. Okay, so where did I stop? I think the last thing I was saying was about really shifting how you show up about shifting how you show up around other people and having to base how you show up based on other people's facial cues, their verbal tone, and all of that. And that causes so much shame in you. And continuously showing up and telling yourself, giving yourself this subconscious message of, I'm not good enough. Giving yourself that message of what I have to offer other people as I am is not enough. And so when you continuously have to change yourself and how you show up, that doesn't feel good in your body. And then I told you guys I would talk more about feminine and masculine energy. Within yourself, you have both masculine and feminine energy. And the masculine part of you is the part of you that holds the feminine, that contains the feminine, that just is so full of this loving awareness. It's just this loving awareness. Think about it. When you, like as a woman, what is it that you want from your partner when you go to them and you share what you're going through? When you share something like a problem that you have or an emotion that you're feeling, you don't want them to fix it. When you go to your partner, you want them to validate you, to just sit with you, to reassure you. And that is what you are lacking with your inner masculine. When you're constantly shaming yourself for how you're showing up and you're trying to put on these masks and you're trying to show up how other people want you to show up, which is all based on past conditioning and old wounds, there's nothing wrong with that. It can be healed. I'm sharing this with you to show you why you feel like you cannot trust yourself, why you feel so self-conscious in public, and why this continues. Because the more shame you feel and the more you feel like you cannot trust your inner masculine, you cannot trust that part of you inside of you to hold all of your emotions, to hold all of your experiences, and you feel like, well, I can't show up in this way, I'm gonna be shamed, even by myself. Like, I'm gonna be judged by myself. I can't show up in this way. It's just not a way I've shown up in the past. Like, what if I trigger other people? What if I show up this way and I make someone else upset? And so you change how you show up and you become self-conscious. And then it just gets into this cycle of like continuously showing up in how other people want you to show up. And that doesn't feel good. I know that doesn't feel good because I've been there. And there are still parts of me that I'm working through on being self-conscious, even on here on YouTube. And trying not to focus too much on looks, trying not to focus too much on like when I have an insecurity about something and saying, oh, well, I can't show up because of this one thing. Because like, what will other people think of me? I can't show up in this one way because what if I trigger people on here? And I had to sit with myself and say, well, no, like if I trigger people, that is a good thing. That means I am shifting their paradigm. That means I am shifting their perspective on something. And that is what we're meant to do here as humans. We are meant to evolve and we are meant to change and become better and grow. I'm not doing anyone a service by helping them stay in the same place. So if I trigger anybody, that is actually a good thing. And so for me, like that is what I'm working through. And I want you to even take this to like your everyday interactions. What part of yourself are you finding yourself constantly shifting to appease other people? What parts of yourself do you feel so ashamed of that your inner masculine feels like it's constantly judging you about? And how can you bring more awareness to that, more loving awareness? It's like what I talked about in my video of, I think it was called something about resisting like your feelings. I don't remember exactly what I named the video, but it's something about resisting your feelings. And that is a huge part of it, is like when you resist how you actually feel, when you resist how you really want to show up, how your personality wants to come through. When you resist that because you are trying to control it for other people, that is always going to drain your energy. And it makes so much sense that you've done that in the past because you needed to survive, but you are no longer in this place. There is so much healing available to you. And as you heal this, you will notice yourself becoming less self-conscious in your head. And I want you to start now, when you're around other people and you find yourself being self-conscious, ask that question back to yourself. Bring it back to yourself. Instead of asking yourself, well, what will they think of this? Ask yourself, what do I think of this? Bring that energy. It's almost like you're taking that energy from outside of you and you're bringing it back into yourself. Instead of putting it on the other person and putting all of this energy into, what will they think of me? What if I trigger them? All of these things, that is draining your energy because you are putting it outside of yourself. And what other people think of you does not matter. In fact, you could do the same exact thing in front of a bunch of people and every single person could see it completely different based on their beliefs, based on their experiences. So are you really going to live your life based on other people's opinions? No, we're gonna cut that out. We're not available for that. And when you stop judging yourself so much, when your inner masculine is able to just hold that loving space, when you feel that judgment coming up and you're like, okay, no, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna allow myself to be. I'm just gonna allow myself to express. When you don't judge yourself, you can actually allow yourself to show up fully how you are. And that allows your inner feminine, your divine feminine, to come to life, to express herself. And the feminine part of you does not feel safe to come out and to express herself because she thrives off safety. And when you're constantly, your inner masculine is judging you and beating you down and talking down to you and telling you, oh, you need to show up in this way, or otherwise people won't accept you. You need to show up in this way. You need to do better. When you're constantly shaming yourself like that, your feminine energy is not going to come to life. It's not going to feel safe enough to express herself. That little girl inside is like, well, what did I do? Like, I'm just trying to express myself. I'm just trying to be me. I'm just trying to exist. And like, I want you to just like imagine when you feel the urge to talk down to yourself, to judge yourself, like imagine that little girl. Imagine that little girl part of you. And I feel like that is so much easier to do for some reason when you are imagining a little kid. It is so much easier to be more gentle, to be more compassionate, to see her in a more loving light, to not feel such a need to judge her, because she's really just trying to be, she's just trying to express herself. And when you judge her so much, she doesn't feel safe enough to come out and play. And something that I really struggled with in my relationships was expressing myself. And I'm still working on this to this day, like expressing myself, expressing all of who I am to the fullest, and removing any blocks, removing any limiting beliefs, removing any judgment, removing any criticism that is coming from inside of me. Anything that I've absorbed since I was a kid that is telling me you can't show up in this way, you can't do these things, I am constantly removing these from my body, because these things become stored in your body, in your mind, in your subconscious. So I'm constantly working on releasing these things. And as you release that from your body, from your subconscious, and you adopt new beliefs, you naturally start to show up and allow yourself to just be. Because a lot of people, like for me, when I would search up YouTube videos and I would look up things on the internet, it was like, how do I do this? How do I show up more in this way? And I had all of these questions that were kind of like trying to figure out how I should show up, how I should speak, how I should do certain things. But in reality, I already had that within me. I was just afraid to express it because of judgment and because of self-consciousness, because of what I thought other people would think of me. So it's not really so much about like having the answers and the things to say in the moment. It's about regulating your nervous system, coming back to this present moment, removing these limiting beliefs, and doing the inner child work, doing the shadow work, doing the feminine energy work, doing all of these things that allows the real you to just come through naturally. Like, I'm sure you've even seen me on these videos from the beginning, from when I started till now. Like, I'm always going to be doing my inner work. I'm always going to be evolving. I'm always going to be investing in myself, in my inner work, to go to the next level. You're never going to see me not doing that. And you can see that in my energy. You can see that in the way that I show up. You can go back to my old videos. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I am the best version of myself now than I was in the past. And that's really the goal. It's not about perfection. Let go of that perfection core wound of the fearful avoidant, of having to show up perfectly or you'll be punished, of having to show up perfectly or you'll be rejected. And I'm also always working on this too, on newer levels, because it's not just a part of the fearful avoidant wound. It's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. Like, we have been taught that we as women need to have it all figured out. We need to do all the things. We need to show up perfectly. And if we don't show up perfectly, then we are rejected, we are punished, we are abandoned. Whatever it may be for you, whatever the story is for you that you received growing up, that you've absorbed and now have taken on as your own. You get to show up in your power. You get to show up as you are. And the more things you let go that you've absorbed over time, the limiting beliefs, the things that you've been told you needed to show up in, the more you regulate your nervous system and let go of these past wounds and allow yourself to enter more into the parasympathetic state to heal, the more the real you just comes through more naturally. And if you're interested in doing that nervous system work, that feminine energy work, the inner child work, the shadow work, it's all available. And I would love to guide you in doing this in my coaching container. And I will leave the link to that down below. Please leave any comments, any key insights that you got, any questions that came up for you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.